Hi, guys, and welcome back to Couch Critics.
Hi guys, we're Couch Critics.
Today we're reviewing The Hunger Games, and yeah, the Ballad of the Songbird and the Snakes. Is that the right title?
I think so.
It's so
It's
long,
a
it was
very
so
long
hard
title.
to
My notes are all
memorize it.
over the place. Yeah, so today we're gonna talk about the Hunger
I got a
Games.
notebook this time as
Wow.
advised by Lemia.
How did
Yeah.
your experience
I loved it. I felt like I was
went
back in university and
taking
taking
notes?
notes. Yeah,
Did
I
you
did.
feel weird about it in the movie theater?
No, there wasn't that many
Mm-hmm.
people. Went to a low-key movie theater, so it wasn't that
Cool.
busy. Yeah.
Nice. I love taking notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Hunger Games
By the
is
way,
back on.
sorry. This time Lemia and I didn't even watch the movie together. So I have
Yeah.
really, really no idea what you think of it. I don't even know how you got out of the movie, if you were like impressed, not impressed. So I'm so excited to see
Me
your
too. Like
opinion.
we spent like an hour prior to this together and we tried so hard to not talk about this until now.
Yeah.
And it was hard. It was really hard. So I'm so excited to
Me
talk to
too.
you about this. I
Yes.
love the Hunger Game universe and I have so much to say. Some good stuff, some bad stuff. But
Same.
we're just gonna analyze everything here as usual and like try to figure out if everything worked in the movie, whether it was a good one or a bad one. So yeah, the Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games. Okay. How do we start?
Okay, so I feel like we should probably give a definition to the Hunger Games and just like try to explain what it's about for people who don't know what it's about, because not a lot of people watch the previous Hunger Games, since this is a prequel, it's not a
Yeah.
sequel. And so to me the Hunger Games are this dystopian fiction that takes place in a universe where we have 12 districts. They go from poor to from rich to poor actually, and the injustice in that is the Hunger Games, which is a play. It's a play, right?
It's a show.
It's a reality TV show that takes place every year, and two people from each district are chosen to play some games where they have to fight to death, and those people are children, all of them, and so it's all entertainment. Everyone watches it, whether they are rich people or poor people. They all like to watch it, and we watch it too.
We watch it too. We're
Yeah,
also part of the audience. It's a
exactly.
beautiful théâtre dans le théâtre sort of
Yeah.
thing, you know? Yeah, it's yeah, but it's very disturbing. I think it's
Mhm.
reassuring to know it's not real to a certain extent, but yeah.
Yeah. And so the prequel is about President Snow. He's known as the villain in the previous Hunger Games, so it's basically his backstory,
Yeah.
and we get to know how he turned out the way that he is now, and we get to understand his story a little bit better.
We also get to know how the Hunger Games became what they were in the original series,
Mhm.
and we understand a lot of why Snow was the way he was in the original series. It's like kind of a justification to him being the way he is. Um, yeah, I like the fact that it explained his reasons for
Mhm.
the original Hunger Games. But I think um, it lacked a bit of history to other characters. I feel
Mhm.
like the Hunger Games was just the history of President Snow, and other characters did not have that much
Yeah.
backstory. Lucy Gray didn't have much of a backstory. We knew who she is, we knew that she was an orphan, but I don't know, something was missing there.
Mhm. Did you have any expectations when you went to see the movie?
I tried my best not to,
Mhm.
and yeah, no, I didn't have any expectations because I know that with these TV shows, it's such a burden to make it follow up
Mhm.
the previous did I say TV show with these kind of movies? It's
It's
such a
alright.
responsibility to
Yeah.
make it follow up with what the Hunger Games was, especially that it was such a successful
Yeah.
movie series, and the actors, the cast, everybody was so great
Mhm.
before, and it was, you know, I don't know. I remember it being this legendary
Yeah.
Sequel, maybe it's just an opinion, and sometimes it's tougher to follow up to that and to keep up to it
Mhm.
as well. But yeah, I usually try to go with no expectations with these things because I feel like we eventually get disappointed if we have so many expectations and we don't give the movie the chance that it deserves because we have such high standards
Mhm.
because of the previous movies. So yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't disappointed at the end of the movie, but I rewatched The Hunger Games
Yeah.
after, and after rewatching The Hunger Games, I've realized that sometimes I felt like the new movie fell short because I was comparing
Mhm.
it to it. Felt like going in the new movie, I hadn't watched The Hunger Games in such a long time, like maybe 6, 7 years. So I had forgotten about it a little, but watching it again reminded me of how epic it was. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's again just an opinion,
Yeah.
but yeah. What about you? Did you have any expectations?
Um, so I just like you, I was a big fan of the Hunger Games growing up. I read the books, watched the movies so many times, and I just remember being so immersed into that universe and thinking that it's so dystopian, so surreal and so cool. The outfit, the adrenaline that you get when you watch like your favorite actors fight to death. And when I heard that they were making a prequel, I did not really look into it. I tried to not see even the trailer for one single reason, and I know it's not fair, but Rachel Ziegler. I'm sorry, I'm not someone who read tabloids or follow what's going on in Hollywood or whatsoever, but I feel like everything bad that Rachel did was forced on me to watch because whenever I would open TikTok, I would see her videos complaining about how horrible it is to work on a movie set and how traumatizing it is. She was referring to her Snow
Snow
White
White, yeah.
movie, and it just didn't it made me not want to watch the movie. It never happened to me before, but I don't want to watch someone suffer on set. But I did watch it for this video, only for this video. But other than that, I wouldn't have watched it if we weren't making a video about it.
Okay.
This is how unexcited I don't know if that's a word, but unexcited I was to
Underwhelmed.
underwhelmed I was to watch this movie. And I'm still trying to figure out what I think exactly about it, but I feel like it was underwhelming compared to the previous movies because I feel like they used a very different formula.
Although it's
Com-
the same director.
exactly, it's the same director, but it's a completely different formula that was used for this movie, and it did not work. At least for me, it's a very
Mm.
personal opinion, but to me, it's not a great movie. It's not even a good movie to me. Like I'm just gonna say it straight away. I didn't like it.
I agree with you because I just there's so many things every time I came back to like the old Hunger Games or every time I thought about that movie again, I realized a lot of things were missing
Mm,
and a lot of things didn't make sense. I found it interesting. I remember when I first got into the movie, the first few scenes when the Hunger Games first started, there was a lot of reminders of the older series, and that that I had a nostalgic feeling towards
mm,
it. And it made me be like, oh yeah, I remember it now, and I think I liked it. I liked that it reminded me of the
yeah.
older movies, but I think that that's the only reason why I like the movies. It's
Mm,
just because of the reminder of what it was. So a lot of the movie was carried on um, the older, the sequel,
the sequel.
the sequel.
But is there something specific that didn't work for you that maybe have worked in the previous movies, the sequels, but that you think was missing in the prequel? Something that could have changed everything, maybe a detail.
Yes, the costumes and the singing. The singing really took me off guard,
Mm,
especially the first time Lucy Gray started singing.
mm,
there was other times when she sung, and I found that that was the right moment, it was appropriate. But when she was first cast as tribute, she started singing all of the sudden, and I just didn't think it was the
Yeah.
right moment to start singing. It really took us off guard.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna keep comparing it to the older movie.
Yeah, it's the same
But
franchise. Yeah.
yeah, but when we watched the first Hunger Games, and there's a moment where Katniss sings when Prim starts having nightmare about being chosen for the
Mm.
Hunger Games. There's a moment where Katniss went to her sister and started singing to her a lullaby
Mm.
to help her calm down. And that was so subtle and so well done. Like, you didn't feel like, oh no, they were cutting the
Yeah.
movie for a song. No, it was part of the movie. Whereas Lucy singing all of a sudden just because she felt rebellious or
Mm.
something, that didn't sit well with me. Also, the dress, yes, I get it, it was her mother's dress, but felt like a very cheap anecdote. Like,
Mm.
you could have given a deeper
Yeah.
story to the dress, or just not give her such a dress. It just didn't feel appropriate. And even in the movie, the people who were watching her from the Capitol, they were saying, oh, what is she wearing? So I get it, maybe they wanted to make it look weird or make it not make sense, but it just, I don't know, it didn't fit with the whole movie.
Universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. My reasons are very similar to yours, but I have like another thing to add. I'm just gonna go back very quickly to the first Hunger Games. Katniss as a character, she's very normal. She doesn't have any supernatural skill. She's doesn't have any prophecy. She's a normal
Yeah.
person. The only reason why she survived in the Hunger Games was because actually there are two reasons. The first one is that she knows how to hunt. She knows how to use what is it called?
The archery, the bow and arrow.
Exactly. And so that helped her a lot because since she was starving to death, she had to hunt to feed her sister. The second reason, I'm going to go back to it a bit later, but my point is she's a normal person. She doesn't have anything special. She wasn't even chosen for the Hunger Games. Her sister was chosen and she took her place. So we're starting out with a simple character that we can all relate to. She goes to the Hunger Games. Then, in my opinion, like the only reason why she survived is because she has empathy. That's the thing that other people in other districts related to. She didn't kill Pita when she was
She
able
could
to,
have.
when she could have won the game alone. She decided to commit suicide with Pita, but it didn't work because the capital stopped that. And also, we have a very important scene, which is Rue's scene when she died and how she stayed with her and took care of her and everything. And these two scenes alone are a huge act of defiance. They're an act of rebellion. So these two scenes were that are based on empathy, like because it's the only factor. She could have won so many times. She had so many chances to win the Hunger Games, but since she used her empathy, people in other districts related to her and they used her as a symbol. That's the only thing that she was. She wasn't the leader of these rebels. I know the movie is trying to make us believe that. Like all three movies work to make you think that Katniss is this superhero, but she's not. The real heroes are the rebel, and they used Katniss all along to win the game. And so like the key moment when we see that the rebels are the actual heroes of this movie is during the final fight scene when they get to the capital and they're trying they're like Katniss is there. We spent more than half of the movie, you know, the last movie second part, trying to build up to create a build up that leads to a final fight scene. And then like we don't even see the scene. The all the fight happens off screen. So it makes you think that the real hero here is actually the rebels, and Katniss was only
A symbol.
a symbol and a way for them to get what they wanted. And so it makes you appreciate Katniss even more because like you get to relate to her. And people like Katniss, movies like The Hunger Games, the previous one of course, are very important, especially right now more than ever. Whereas you have the new prequel and you have a character who has this supernatural power, which is singing.
Yeah.
And it's so unrelatable, and it takes out like all the magic of the movie, and you're just it doesn't even feel like the Hunger Game anymore. It feels like a Disney movie
Oh
to
my
me.
God,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, especially there was a point where she started singing with her guitar for the show, like,
Yeah.
before starting the Hunger Games. And it just felt like an American Got Talent episode.
Mhm.
It didn't even feel, it was just, it didn't fit in the movie. That's all I can say. And anyway, even Lucy Gray, like her name, Lucy Gray, versus Katniss Everdeen. Like you
Yeah.
have names like Katniss Everdeen that you will remember that are so original, and then you have a name like Lucy Gray. It's as if they don't want us to remember the character. It's,
Mhm.
I don't know. It just felt so generic. Her
It
name,
is.
her character, all of it. And yeah, you were talking about the death of Rue and the moments where like Katniss could have killed Rue and
Mhm.
Peeta. In this movie, there was no moment where I felt like I wanted to cry because of the deaths
Yeah.
of people. In the Hunger Games, in the original movies, yes, we were all rooting for Katniss, but we were also rooting for all of these other
Mhm.
characters. We were in this dilemma where we wanted everybody to live, but I feel like in this new one, there was no really background story to
Mhm.
anybody else,
Exactly.
and that was missing. Like it makes you less attached to
Mhm.
the characters, to the movie, and yeah, that's why it's a bit underwhelming.
Mhm. Something that I liked about the new Hunger Games is the idea that they try to explore, and it's all these character development for President Snow and how he went from a good person to a bad person, a literal killer.
Yeah.
And so I felt like it was brave to go there and to just show that evolution, and it's very interesting. But to me, that was the only interesting part about the entire movie. It was a very dark idea to explore, but it worked for me. Yeah.
Side note, there
Yeah.
was this moment by the end of the movie where Lucy asks him, he says he killed three people, and Lucy's
Mhm.
like, oh, but I only know of two. Who's the third person?
Yeah.
And there's this moment where he was like, oh, yeah, it's my old self. And I just heard someone, that's the fun part about going to a movie
Yeah.
theater to watch a movie. I just heard someone cracking up just in the front seat because it felt like a Taylor Swift song. Like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now. She's dead. Like I killed my old self. I don't know. I found this so funny and
The memes about this movie are wild.
yes.
They are like it's the best part about the movie. Actually, we found out the best part.
I woke up this morning and Lemia had shared with me like a bunch of memes about the
Memes, yeah.
movie. I was reading them at 6:30 a.m. and I have to say this was the best way to start my day. I was cracking up at like early in the morning. It was so funny.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was saying that it's kind of a shame to come up with a movie that did not follow this footstep of the previous ones, because it is nowadays. We're not going to get into it, but I feel like it's hard to watch the Hunger Games because they don't feel that dystopian anymore, especially the first one. You hear sentences like, even in this movie, and I'm going to quote a few. President Snow, for example: people need someone to root for and someone to root against. Again, how do you think people can have a chance if they can't eat? She's a savage. And these are a few sentences that we can hear in the new movie.
I tried
And
so hard not to compare, like not to talk about how similar it is to what's happening. It's
yeah,
like we are living kind of in the Hunger Games, but that's all I'm gonna say about that.
exactly. And so these sentences, they're very strong statements to make right now. So we have to be very careful of how we use them. You can't use them in a movie and present the hero as someone with superpowers. I feel like it would have been so much more empowering for us, normal people, watchers of the Hunger Games, viewers, to see a normal character like Katniss win. Because the moral of this story is that we want to see like an outcast, the weak person in the room, win, because we need that to empower us. We need that to have hope, because we live in hopeless time kind of right now.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna get into it, but like anyone who has access to news can see how
And
similar life is right now to the Hunger Games.
and it
And
is part of the
just watch the
entertainment, the
Met
news.
Gala.
Oh my God, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like the older movies and the mats, the costumes, everything,
Yeah.
it's so similar versus the news
Mhm.
and the movie, also very similar.
Yeah.
So and like we get our news from social media platforms
Mhm.
that we use as entertainment. So it's kind of feels like the news have become entertainment, which yeah,
True.
that's just yeah.
But movies are like the Hunger Games, like overall, the previous ones, the new one, like this universe, they're also like a reminder of like how important it is to wake up every morning and to preserve your humanity, because it's so fragile and it can be corrupted very very easily. And so you can always choose to be good and to empower others, and you can be a very good person and like turn into an evil person. Like this quickly.
Yeah.
And so they serve to me as a cautionary tale. I just wish the new movie followed the same footsteps as the old ones. But it is what it is. It was fun to like, some part of it were fun. Hearing the Hanging Tree song many times during the movie was so refreshing and so nice. It's one of my favorite songs ever, like movie aside. And yeah, like oh, some performances were great. Viola Davis,
Yes. Yeah.
wild, wild.
I even liked Rachel Zegler's performance. I
Mhm.
think she was very theatrical, and even if I didn't like the parts where she sang, I liked her singing. I liked how she performed it. At the end of the day, she's not the one who writes the script, she's the
Mhm.
one who, performs it. But I think she did a very good job at showing that, portraying that very defiant character, because she
Mhm.
she does seem like she has a bit of arrogance. I'm talking about Lucy Gray.
Mhm.
She's an arrogant character. Even if she's taken to die, she still is going to try to end up on top and be strong and keep it together. And at some points she did have a very vulnerable side. I just don't see the I feel like she jumped from being a vulnerable to being a very arrogant person quite fast, and
Mhm.
it was both two extremes. With Jennifer Lawrence, when she was vulnerable, she was also arrogant. She
Yeah.
did both at the same time
Mhm.
with a very, very blurry line. Like it wasn't black or white with Jennifer Lawrence. It was
Yeah.
really gray, and I think that's what made her performance amazing. But yeah, I still think Rachel Zegler did a good job.
Yeah.
It's just hard to fill up
Mhm.
Jennifer Lawrence's shoes.
It's true. I feel like we would always like
Yeah,
compare the actress to the
unfortunately.
previous ones, but it's normal because we do have the previous movies, and a lot of people love them so much. So we kind of want to find something similar to what we've watched. And yeah, I hope they don't make another prequel. Maybe a sequel would be nice. Like maybe someone decides to start a new Hunger Games. You never
Oh
know.
no.
Or maybe they could just let that.
I think they're gonna follow it
Yeah.
up. I think there will be
Oh,
another
really?
movie, because I don't think that was the end for Snow. We see him getting to the capital, but we don't see him getting to the power.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I would like to give it another chance. I would like
Okay.
for another movie to be made and maybe get better eventually.
Hmm.
One thing that I did not understand though is that the difference between the older Hunger Games and the newer ones
Hmm.
in terms of technology. Like these Hunger Games, they still happen in the future. They're not in our times, and it feels like whenever they were the new movie, it just felt like they were in the, I don't know, 60s, 50s. I don't know. It felt really outdated,
Hmm.
and I feel like they could have, even if they didn't want it to be very similar to the older ones, the original movies, and they still wanted to there to be a timeline and show that it happened before, it still happens in the future. I just
Hmm.
don't understand why they made it look so
Old.
old. It didn't make sense to me. Like the technology, everything. I don't know. I found it
Same.
a bit. Yeah, that was also a bit it felt incoherent again. But yeah, I feel bad. I
The
have
Hunger
like
Games.
the Hunger Games. It was a good movie. It was an enjoyable
It
movie to
wasn't, yeah,
watch. It
that's the
didn't
word,
hurt my
enjoyable.
eyes,
Mhm.
but it's again some movies you get out and you feel like it just makes you feel something when you leave the movie theater, and others you're just like, okay, that was another movie
Mhm.
that entertainment, but not
Yeah,
life changing.
exactly. Would you watch it again?
I want to watch it again because I want to see if I missed something and if it was actually entertaining. I think like it deserves a second watch, maybe try to see if there was something actually worth it in it. I don't know. I would watch it again.
Mhm.
A second time, yes. A third time, maybe not. In 10 years, I probably won't remember it.
Okay.
What about you?
I would maybe read the book
Yeah?
before watching it because I did read like
The
the
original?
previous books for the Hunger Games. I haven't read this new one, and I feel like that helped me like the Hunger Games more because I did watch the first Hunger Game ever before reading the book.
Okay.
Didn't like it, didn't understand it, and I randomly like read the book because like
Okay.
my sister had it, and like I just read it when I was bored.
Bored. Wow, you knew how to read when you were bored.
And so yeah, I feel like reading the book would help because I feel like there are a lot of internal monologues happening in like with Snow and Lucy that we don't get to see because like we don't have any dialogue during them.
Yeah.
And if we read the book, maybe it would help.
I think the books would be important in that part to understand how Snow switched so fast.
Hmm.
Like he went from running away with Lucy to all of the sudden shooting on her. And I don't know, that took me off guard. It didn't make
Hmm.
sense to me. Also, like he wanted to change districts. He went from District 8 to District 12 just to be with Lucy. And then all of a sudden you change and I understand at slowly he started losing trust in her, but I don't know, it's disappointing.
Hmm.
She didn't ask him to come to District 12. He followed her and then he goes out trying to kill her. It just didn't make sense to me.
I think that he did, yes, he followed her, but he did not like that life.
Yeah.
Once he experienced it, he felt so out of place, and he just wanted to go back to his old life, but he still loved Lucy, so he couldn't leave. So it was this dilemma about, okay, I maybe I want to go, but she's the only thing holding me here. And so like this is what I was saying earlier, like to me that was the interesting part, seeing him like flip that switch and just like turn into another person and let go of all like the humanity that
Mm.
he had. And also we need to understand that like Snow, yes, he didn't play the games, but he did watch the games, and that's on itself like it's a trauma, like it changes him, and it did rip off a lot of its of his humanity. So it's very like interesting to see how different people react to watching the Hunger Games. And it's a very interesting idea to explore because we are watching them watch the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of people should talk more about this because it's a very dark topic, but it's an interesting one, especially right now during these kind of times.
Yeah. I think if there was a theme for the movie, it would be the this side of Snow, his
Mhm.
Machiavellian side, him trying to justify everything bad that he does.
Yeah.
And I remember one of his quotes was, "Love makes you weak," and
Mhm.
that kind of explains everything. But how did he get there? How I don't know. I want to empathize with him. I want to understand what made him such a bad person. But at the
Mhm.
end of the day, I just think he's someone who's way too ambitious and who's ready to do anything to
Mhm.
get to where he wants to be, even if it's going to hurt others. And even if it's going to mean that he's going to cheat in the Hunger Games and do kill people, cheat on his friends.
Mhm.
That was just, that was, I'm not gonna say unexpected, but it still was shocking.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was more disappointed in
Yeah.
seeing him cheat on his friend, like not cheat on his friend, but expose him and get him killed, than it was to see other people die in the Hunger Games, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because we saw the connection, we saw how
Mm-hmm.
close he was, how happy he was when he saw him again, and how sad he was when his friend got killed. These are the pivoting moments of the movie that
Mm-hmm.
makes you feel for the characters and,
Yeah.
intrigues you. But yeah.
To me, Snow's character makes perfect sense. I don't feel like I'm questioning anything about him because I just justify everything that he did with trauma. It doesn't mean that he's right, he's definitely wrong, but I feel like he was maybe weak and couldn't take a step back from what he saw. And therefore, it just ruined him. It just turned him into another person. Like, anger ripped off all of the humanity in him. And to me, it's as simple as that. And it makes him more human because we like we react differently to these kind of things, and some people do get angry and can never recover from that. And it was not refreshing but interesting to see the Hunger Game universe take that risk and like try to explore this idea. And yeah, that was a very interesting part to me for when it comes to the new Hunger Games.
Do you think that Snow would have survived if he was part of the Hunger Games? And how do
His
you
young
think he would have?
version.
Yeah,
Mm,
how do you think he would have won?
I think he's ambitious enough to win, and he does have a very no, a very big, not big, but like an existent dark side that takes a lot of space in the person that he is. And so he would have done whatever it took to like win the games. I don't think he would have sacrificed himself to like save anyone else, but I think that he would have won definitely.
I
I would
think he,
even go as far to say that he would have killed Lucy to win.
oh yeah,
So yeah.
I think he would have manipulated people to win.
Mhm.
Like maybe he wouldn't have killed Lucy, he would have gotten Lucy killed by someone else so that he would have feel
Yeah.
guilty about it.
Yeah. Did you like the division of the movie, how it was separated into three parts?
I didn't like, no, I didn't like the last part. I thought
Okay.
because it went from the Hunger Games to a bar with country music, or I don't know what kind of
Mhm.
music Lucy was playing.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, it didn't make sense. And then
Mhm.
at some point the part where they went to the lake, I think that was pretty, but again, it didn't, I don't know, it didn't make sense to me, like
Mhm.
them running away. And no, I didn't. I can't
Okay.
really explain why,
Mhm.
but I just didn't. What about you?
I really liked the first part because we did get to see a version of like nice snow,
Yeah.
and I didn't like the second part because I okay, it's weird to say it, but like we like watching the games, and I felt like the games were rushed. Like we saw too many killings too fast, and people didn't have to fight that hard.
No.
And it also it was rushed. It was too rushed for me. Last part was rushed too because I just feel like people assumed that we already know the. I mean, when I say people, it's the creators. They assumed that we already know Snow's dark side, so they just went quickly into the conclusion. So part one was my favorite one. Maybe part two second favorite, and part three was the least favorite.
Yeah, I do agree that the games were rushed. I mean, it's the Hunger Games, and the Hunger Games take a very
Yeah.
small part of the movie. But I feel because back then it was an arena, the Hunger Games, there was no hiding, there was no
Mhm.
surviving or anything. It was just a fight,
Yeah.
like back in the gladiator days, which is why I also
Mhm.
think the movie was outdated because the arena
Yeah.
looks like a gladiator fight, and it reminded me a lot of this movie called Pompeii that was filmed in 2014, but that's
Okay.
about like way before our time. And the arena looked the same, the
Mm,
characters looked the same at some point when the one of the characters took the red cape and covered all the death bodies. It felt like this very triumphant scene, and there was a similar scene in Pompeii. And it's again, it's supposed to be in the future, but those scenes remind me of something that was in the
mm,
prehistoric time. And yeah, but I do understand why the Hunger Games fight was short, but I feel if the arena looked different, it would have been longer, and maybe
mm,
that would have been worth the effort. And maybe then we would have actually felt bad for the people who died in the Hunger
mm.
Games because we would have gotten to know them better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like they could have done more efforts on the set design, and it did feel cheap
Mm-hmm.
almost. But yeah, the it wasn't the best Hunger Game.
No, no, not
No.
for me.
We're just here complaining
We're
about
just
how bad
complaining
it
of the
is.
Hunger Games. Oh my god.
We're trying to come up with the best like parts of the movie, but it's just hard because we keep comparing it to the old ones, and
Yes.
it's you can't escape from that.
No. On that note, I think that that concludes our podcast.
It does. Also, side note, the setting is different this time.
Oh
We're
yes.
not we're not in Ruby's cute living room. We're in my creepy, filled with red flag living
No, we're
room,
still in a nice
as you
living
can
room. I love
see.
this.
But yeah,
We have,
different setting.
yeah, we were protected by the Godfather and the Texas Chainsaw
Menacing.
Massacre, and also Leonardo DiCaprio is there watching over us. So it's I think it's the perfect setup for movies. But yeah, get used to this because we're gonna be switching.
From time
So
to time, yeah.
yeah,
So,
thank you
on
for
that
watching.
note, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, don't forget to subscribe and like.
Please.
Bye.
Bye.